Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale slash series finale of The Expanse, Babylon's Ashes, which, as we have seen and learned, that this is kind of like the finale for, I guess, this portion of the story, because there's some kind of time skip and they're going to be doing another kind of season kind of series thing in a movie. So we'll kind of see how that kind of works out, because that definitely does feel that there's still unresolved things going on at the end of this. They put mainly the bookend of the whole Marco and Naros thing, and pretty much put a bookend of like, all right, this is where this stuff on Laconia is going on. Let's see how this kind of goes later on with how they kind of essentially pretty much capsule this shit. So this one's kind of weird. It is not the worst kind of whatever finale we want to kind of call this. I have seen worse series ending finales, I've seen worse season ending finales, and this one does not have. It has things that it has to juggle, and it juggles it well enough. However, we do kind of end up at the place that we were at the end of season 3, kind of. Which I really didn't actually think about until after I had watched this and kind of thought about it for a little bit and kind of ruminated and like, we're just back at where we were. So we start, of course, at Laconia, because that's what they've decided to do with all these episodes. For why the fuck break it off now? And they're frantically like, I had to give them enough time to do whatever with to bring him back and everything. They're freaking out because, granted, they did lose a kid. So my issue with these parents, especially with this episode, is they don't seem that attentive and are prone to overreactions. But I think that's mainly because of how fucking condensed this is, and how they're like, listen, this is important because this is setup for shit. But just because you speedrun the setup doesn't mean that that works out enough. You want to be able to do setup at the pace that it needs to be done. Go too fast and you have characters acting completely fuckballs and nuts at certain instances, and you're like, these would be pretty out of character if I fucking had them pegged for a character. So the Kara kid comes in and they're like, honey, we were so afraid. What's going on? And she's like, I didn't know how long it would take him to fix him. It's like, where's your brother's body? And it's like, yeah, what kind of freaked up, fucked up shit are you doing to the body, man? And if the kid has no kind of history of that kind of stuff, it's even weirder. It's like, what are you doing with it? It's like, fixing him. What the fuck? Then of course the kid comes in. But it's really kind of funny because they needed more time to this. They needed to get to the escalation of because granted, first initial reaction, your dead child is walking in, you're like, hey, mom, dad, why don't you give me a hug or whatnot? Because I want one too. Because this kid, throughout the points of his resurrection, is throwing off no kind of weird vibes other than, I can see shit I ain't never fucking seen before. Which, granted, makes sense since your eyes are fucking blue-ass weird shit going on, and you got resurrected by fucking weird-ass dog things that we have no idea what they are and what their connection to the proto-molecule is. Otherwise, they're just fucking going, this kid just keeps leaving out weird fucking shit and I'm just gonna fuck with it. Which, granted, would be actually pretty interesting kind of character development if we had ever at some point gotten to the dogs and what the fuck is up with this weird-ass motherfucker? Fucking tries to feed this shit that kills this bird thing, so we gotta fucking do something with its ass. And there's this fucking drone that's broken over here, gotta do something with that thing's ass. And then a fucking other dead thing, it's like, can you fix it? It's like, I don't know, let me fuck around with this shit. I don't know what's going on here. That would be an interesting kind of thing, but no, at this point it's just weird mysterious thing does weird mysterious thing. Okay, cool. I hope that's kind of explained and explored at some point, but that's not obviously going to be fucking here. So the parents are like, pet cemetery. I know I brought up the whole kind of pet cemetery thing, but I kind of would have rather had the reactions been amplified on both fronts, because the kid gives nothing off to the point of where the dude's like, shit. He gets a knife, cuts the kid, Zahn, and he's like, god damn, and he heals that. So I'm like, okay, you got fucking issues if you've got people that you can resurrect at a dime and they heal super fast. It's pretty much like the amped up version of the like hybrid thing that like Zhao went and was like, okay, this is actually kind of better. So evidently, I should have just fucking killed killed the specimens before I infected them with things. It's like maybe. That's callous, disgusting, and fucked up to be like, I'm gonna kill this kid to fucking experiment on it. No. Don't do that. Don't condone that. Fuck you, motherfucker, for even trying to do that. But it could be because in a dead kind of state, the body is more malleable to being reprogrammed with the proto-molecule and then brought back. Granted, you still have the whole problem of, what about your soul? Or what about the thing that's driving you? Are you then even you anymore? To what we can see throughout this episode, Zahn does kind of still act like Zahn, so evidently, I don't know, they'd have to do some kind of fucked up experiments to see how long a dead person is before they kind of lose themselves, how kind of those reboot protocols, resurrection things could kind of work out. And as you can tell, I have more fun kind of like going in with this kind of shit at this moment, so yeah, I'm like, hey, this, even though I really wanted the kind of like nice end-off story with what was going on with the Rossi crew and everything. Alright, let's see. So they pretty much try and lock the kid in the closet. Not closet. It's closely analogous to a closet / storage thing. The kid's like, let me out! And he's not even like going like hardcore Hambo Rambo on the damn thing. He's like, I don't want to be in here. Like, he's pretty fucking calm for it. Not calm, but like, not like rage-inducing demon, like, I'm going to crawl through the walls and suck your blood as I then crawl upon the ceiling, going, spitting out pea soup and shit. No, I ain't going exorcist shit on this. He's just like, can you let me out? Please? So, Kara then runs out. She pretty much tricks the adults and then just goes off on her own, being like, yeah, I'm gonna go with you. He's like, hey, you don't have any food or anything. I'm like, okay, smart fucking brother. And she's like, don't worry. Dogs will fucking bring me back if it ever happens. And I'm like, that's really cavalier and kind of reckless. But she's got a fucking point because she actually saw her brother be brought back. So all they gotta do is, like, do whatever the fuck they did. And then we see that he can see her looking all kind of like, weird, like how the hybrid could kind of see shit, kind of Superman style of like electrons and shit like that, and he's like, what the fuck's going on with that thing up there, as we see stuff going on with the fucking floating thing that's got proto-molecule shit in it. So that's where most of the Laconia stuff is done. We also see that the Admiral dude's looking up like they're like, hey. Well, is that the end? That might be the end for his shit. No, they send off at the end with them going out like that, which was pretty effective. Well, let me just link that up. We do get a part where the Admiral's just looking up like, hey. I'm like, well, he's not going completely but he's like, I'm pleased with myself. Like, the fuck did you do? Alright, cool, whatever. We do get him back in with the rest of the part. So, we then see that Abra and the rest are pretty much trying to come up with the battle plan. Of course, Drummer's like, wow, you guys don't have shit. It's like, yeah, we got our shit, the Martian Navy got its shit pushed in by fucking Laconian railguns that Marco Anaris has around Medina Station. Yeah. And, of course, it's pretty much evened out by, like, the tech that the combined forces have with the numbers that Marco Anaris kind of has. So they're pretty much trying to figure out what to do. They are going to kind of split it up where we got the Martians and the UN's kind of trying to go after the Pella, and the Drummer going after kind of the support vessels, because that would be kind of like the best kind of test case scenario for their kind of stuff. And then we'll get into kind of like the politics later on, but it's kind of interesting. We see that the Rossi crew is then going to try and beat the Pella to the ring, get in, try and take control of the railguns, as they do a kind of what I'm going to term as, from Halo lore, ODST, are orbital drop shock troopers. They're usually shot in through like into engagements on planets and like pods, hell jumpers. And that's kind of the tactics that they're going to be using, by pretty much throwing a bunch of shit through the ring, trying to take over the guns while they kind of deal with the stuff at the Medina Station with the Rossi, and that they're going to do it, hopefully, that if they are able to push Marco's shit in, they can take him out with their own railguns. And Works out. Alvin Sorala comments about him being an optimist and stuff like that. It's like, um, honestly, out of all of them, he does have the most hope because most of the stuff usually works in his favor, even when it doesn't kind of work out in his favor. I mean, he did get irradiated and almost fucking died with the whole station proto-molecule kind of thing, so he doesn't completely come away unscathed. Oh, and then having fucking visions from a proto-molecule thing on Illis and having to deal with that, and like slugs and bacteria eating things for eyeballs and shit. Yeah, he has to kind of work to being that optimist, but sometimes when you're put into the shittiest kind of position, sometimes going buck wild and putting underwear on your head, even though sounds like the insane option, usually can sometimes at least surprise an enemy enough for you to kind of kick its ass. So you kind of go for it. Well, then the episode kind of devolves into that kind of stuff, shifting out to all of our various kind of different things. Let's see here. Battle, we get a little bit of it. It's mainly focused on the Rossi, which I actually really like better and actually think is the smarter kind of choice because those are our core anchor characters and they should be given most of the time. That's not to say that Alvis Sorala and the rest of them get near the short shrift. They actually do get some pretty good stuff as they go. We see that they try and engage the Pella, and it's not actually working out right. Drummer and her group pretty much are like going at this kind of freighter thing, but it's like blowing apart. We see the Pella pretty much disguised itself and was pretty much fucking up and taking up some of Drummer's fleet. And her ship gets completely kind of wrecked, and she was about to pretty much use it as pretty much a living missile kind of thing, which definitely tracks with her as a character. However, because she's kind of more important, we get the weird kind of pirate dude be like, oh, we had that same idea, and then he pretty much launches himself, vastly damages the Pella, not enough to stop it, but killing flock of seagulls as Philip's like, ah shit, she's dead. Of course, Marco doesn't give a shit, pretty much rallying, let's do this shit, let's do this shit, let's do this shit, Belters, yeah. Philip's like, fucking hell. And the thing is, the way we're focused on him, it's like, yeah, he's probably left that ship. Why is that important? Because then we shift to other kind of things as well. Pretty much with how it kind of deals with the Rossi. We also got a cool little scene where Alvis Sorala was actually on the command center for one of the UN ships, and this dude's like, shouldn't you kind of like be back in like safer quarters or whatnot? And she's like, if I need to like give orders and shit, I need to be here in the thick and I need to know what's going on, which I respect for in a leader, but the thing is, a leader also has to know how to delegate, and Alvis Sorala, while having to do diplomatic and tactical kind of things as well, she could potentially get in the way of like the command structure and whatnot of like the actual pretty much person in charge that knows the fleet and knows his subordinates with on the ship and how to deal with those kind of scenarios. So I do like a leader trying to lead, but it also has to make sense with what's going on. So we see the Rossi pretty much getting ready. We have a nice little moment where Naomi pretty much asks Peaches to kind of check the injectors, which we don't really see utilized throughout this episode, but she has a nice moment where we get to see her, like, pretty much... I do like that they touch upon this moment, but I mean, we've seen this throughout the whole thing, but they kind of verbalize talking about, like, how far Amos has come, calling her boss, how Peaches calls him boss, and how he's become that kind of beacon for Peaches, and her kind of turning herself around and everything. Now, granted, they don't get completely nutty in how they spell it out, but it's like, yeah, we've seen this, that's cool, I'm glad that you're kind of bringing it to Amos's attention. It's like, alright, cool. So then we see that Peaches isn't feeling good. She then goes into the med bay, and we find that she has a kind of syndrome because of her mods that she's got 5 years to live. It's like, all right. That's important because the time jump kind of works out to 30 years. It's like, well, Peaches is going to be dead at some point probably, so we'll see how that works out. And we see a list of stuff like salt and all that stuff. It's an endocrine kind of thing because of the mods. It's like, all right, cool. And we get everybody kind of working out together, trying to figure out what's going on. We get all these kind of assault pods and everything. It's like, god damn it, I'm going in like a portable toilet. Like Amos's lines and shit. Him and Bobby, they needed more episodes to actively really go through, because him and Bobby's lines, their character interactions were fucking on point here. Because it's funny, he's like, okay, you got like a 20% chance you're like, oh, it sounds like Russian roulette. And she's like, what's that? Some kind of casino game? And he's like, yeah. It's funny, Amos doesn't really go that much in depth. It's like, yeah. And it was just a funny kind of thing. As they pretty much shoot them out, they also use an ice hauler. Kind of a nice kind of callback to like the cant and everything like that, as they kind of use it to kind of shield them from the railguns. And the Rousey pretty much is like going around. They get actually hit by one of the railguns. It doesn't penetrate through the armor, interestingly enough. So it shows, hey, this protomolecule thing kind of working out pretty well with what it went on with the armor. But it still fucked it up enough that it fucked up the speed. So Peaches had to go down and fuck with some shit. And she got fucking like blasted with lightning from the core and shit, but she's able to kind of like get everything kind of back on track, so Holden's got the speed and everything, so he can get out of the range of the guns, get Medina Station in between them and everything. But we then see the assault thing going on, and we see that they've lost a lot of people, because also the whole kind of mass thing, they lost some of them to that. I'm glad that they recognize that fact. They got on there. Bobby's trying to figure out what's going on, and it's pretty much going foobar, like completely and utterly. One squad pretty much almost got wiped out completely, because we see guns and RPGs, and I'm like, well, at least Marco pretty much made a nice defensible position with this shit. But they're trying to get control of the guns, and it's going nutty. People are coming from the Medina Station, firing at them and everything. They're pretty much stuck, but they need air support, but they can't get air support because they got the whole guns. So Bobby kind of goes in, just charging in, using whatever she can, gets into range. I thought she was pretty much going to die in here, and Amos was like, fuck that shit. Give her covering fire, get into it. They're pretty much, she was able to use her rockets, but it kind of like blasted the control center for the guns. I think it wasn't that clear on what she kind of destroyed. And then she's like, we don't have the guns, because Zarasi came in and fucked up some shit. It's like, how's it going? They get everybody on. They pretty much assess the situation. Bobby's like, sorry about that. Only way for us to pretty much get them out of there. And then they're like, the Free Navy's coming for our asses, so what's our kind of game plan? It's like, well, we could do this, that, and the other. And then Naomi's like, hey, why don't we just use the rings and overload it? And have him pretty much eat Marco. I was like, yes. So they did use the idea, and I'm glad it was utilized this way, because a little bit of it could have felt like an ass pull, but they're able to present it in enough fact that they really have not a lot of options. It's the best one to pretty much get Marco off the board and do everything that they need to do to kind of get them out of here without pretty much doing a suicide run and all that, because they're pretty much like, I don't want to run from this either or whatnot. They're doing all these different kind of plans. It's like, why don't we utilize the ring like this and do that? I'm like, yeah, weaponize that shit. And it doesn't come off like an ass pull. I could understand if somebody's like, this is kind of convenient. I'm like, well, they have been talking about it all season. They've been building up the whole kind of thing of, all right, these ring entities, whatever the fuck they are, you piss them off enough, they're going to fucking do all this shit with it and figure out how to kind of play that game as well. And I was like, yes, okay, this is what they should have been doing. I'm glad that they actually did it smartly and actually brought it up in a point that was actually useful for them. Before we get completely to that, we do have that Marco tried to talk to Admiral Darte on Laconia, and he's like, yeah, fuck you, man, essentially. He's like, yeah, I got gods to kill. I'm like, what? Like, you don't just drop a line like, yeah, I got gods to kill. Laconia's ring's gonna be closed to you. We're not sending you help. Fuck you. And I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna close the ring to him? How does that work? Like, what? Like, you say you have gods to kill, and you say you're like, yeah, Laconia rings close to you. Good luck to you, Belter. And it's like, you don't just say those kind of things and not kind of like, and how far advanced has this gone on? Now, granted, he doesn't have proto-molecule eyes and stuff, but to be able to, like, deny someone access through a ring? Does he know about the ring entities? Any of that? Because nobody seems to be, like, bringing up that fact that, like, ships have been disappearing, because when it was brought up with, like, Avasarala and shit, she's like, that's not an important thing right now. Oh, like a fucking thing that could set off the ring or whatnot? I mean, granted, if I fucking farted a nuclear bomb at the fucking control station, the ring would probably wipe out our solar system. Yes. But you're not fucking freaked out that a thing is eating ships and could be like, you know what? This is annoying my ass. Why don't I come out and whip out a 10-ton dick to just fucking cockslap all you? You know, man? Like... But it is good that they're like, hey, let's use this to fuck this dude's day up. But it was kind of funny. It's like Marco's like, hey, I fucked up. Anybody want to help me out? It's like, no. Though, granted, it is kind of weird that he's like, hey, Laconia rings close to you. It's like, don't you need food, fucking fool? Granted, you got things that'll probably bring you back to life just because it fucking can, and just because it'll come over and be like, dead thing. Let's fuck with it. You know, like, the biggest issue with this season is the shortness, because there are things that need to be expounded upon, because the supply chain issues in this show with all these things going on, I'm like, fuck, you need food, water, and stuff. You even made such a big point, because you actually pointed it out, that you can't eat the shit on Laconia. How else are you supposed to get food, fuck nut? If the Free Navy wins, you said it's closed off to you. Oh yeah, I gotta kill some gods. You're gonna need some fucking food, man. I don't know about you, but I mean, that's some hungry ass fucking work trying to fight and kill a god. Not that I speak from experience. I mean, I've done that in video games, but like, it's not like I go around fighting fucking Hugh from Star Trek every fucking 30 days because he's just like, hey, bitch, and I'm like, hey, bro, and fucking fisticuffs. No. I mean, because that shit needs to be explained. Like, even if he's able to kind of like work some shit out, it's like, come on. And then of course writing weirdness that's going on, because we also get that connected to the supply stuff later on. So they pretty much set up the ice hauler to pretty much blow up and shoot some other shit through, and of course it works out. We get Marco's kind of death scene as the entities are pretty much eating him, and the thing is, it's not brought up on Philip, and I'm like, he probably left. And of course we get a thing later on that he did take a Belter ship, changed it to registration to Philip Nagata, and he's like, yeah, fuck that crazy ass dude. So it's like, alright, cool, that makes sense, and I'm glad that he's able to do it, but I don't care about his character because he's got like the strength of like cardboard. There's like barely anything there, and the plot's just fucking whipped his ass around so much to being like, I'm a crazy murderer. I feel for these people, and I feel for Flock of Seagulls and New Guy and his brother. And it's like, alright, let's see if they do something with you. So Marco and the Free Navy are ended by being eaten by eldritch entities of the ring, which I'm like, yeah, that'll work out. I'm good with that. And everybody's like, alright, cool, we're good. And the pretty much ending portion of this episode and season deals with kind of like the fallout to everything. We see that Holden is there as Earth and Mars, and the Belters try and hammer out stuff, which for some odd fucked up reason, the supervisor attendant person lady that was in charge of Sarah's station is there, and I'm like, this person has proven that they are not to be trusted within any position of authority whatsoever. She trusted Marco, who didn't give them any supplies and would let them to starve. One of her first acts is to pretty much be like, tell the Enter to get fucked, and still let her people starve and everything. I'm like, if you allow her to be anywhere near any form of Belter governance, you gonna die. Like, you have a better shot of pretty much installing the lazy earther cat. Because at least they would understand that, like, I understand that you want the best kind of, like, workaround that you want for your people. Again, this goes to writing and pacing as well, of, like, you don't really understand why she's being a dumb fuck on this stuff. Granted, I understand Belter animosity towards the inners, but if you don't have any arable soil, if you don't have readily available water, if you don't have motherfucking air, and you are a person that lives on a rock in space, and you don't have that shit. Honestly, if they had just done an episode where she reaped the, like, actual consequences of that, and Sarah's Station just evolved and then them beating each other to death and eating each other to death, I would have liked to have been like, hey, yeah, let's not be those kind of belters, man. Like, let's kind of, like, work this out. Because at the end of this, Drummer's, like, trying to pretty much have a strong position for the belters. I get that. That needs to happen. However, we don't understand the complete and utter makeup of this because Avasarala brings up, like, yeah, she doesn't want to, like, seem like she's rewarding the people that supported Marco. And we don't know the kind of split to this. I could theoretically split it at 50-50. That's still a pretty kind of big thing. There's no kind of Belter governance structure. There's no Belter kind of justice kind of thing to wrangle in any unsavory elements. That's pretty much how we got into this goddamn position in the first place, because they wanted to do their individual thing, and that's cool. And then you got Marco being like, I'm hot shit and dickin' and do, and I'm gonna fuck the inners up with giant fucking rocks. And then everybody's gonna join me, but I'm gonna let those fuckers starve. And it's like, yeah, don't do that. Like, they don't even, like, show Drummer trying to, like, create some kind of thing with, like, Fred Johnson with his example of the OPA kind of thing. Like, he did some nasty shit with, like, spacing people and killing people, but he at least had some kind of form of, like, structural government. Like, he's like, yeah, we have kind of a chain of command shit. I mean, you can be you, but if you start fucking up, I'm going to make sure that you're not a problem for me anymore. Because he can't afford that kind of shit. And I'm like, okay, Drummer's important. But you and the thing is, I'm like, yeah, we don't want to fuck the Belters up, but you kind of need something kind of going on. And she's like, we want to control Medina Station. I'm like, I get that. All right. But the thing is, whoever only controls that thing gets a disproportionate power to the others. And then we're just back to where we are, because that's why Marco was able to do kind of the shit that he was doing. Granted, kind of, but not really. They didn't really portray that well enough, because he just essentially got Martian hand-me-down freebies. They're like, here's some advanced stuff, here's some stealth techs, throw some rocks at Earth. I'm fucking off to go to another planet that I can't eat the food at anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna go kill some gods, man. Fuck that shit. But there was no, like, solid plan of, like, okay, this is our structure of governance. Technically, I think that everybody should have some kind of thing to, like some kind of fourth party that is as neutral as possible, with probably all of the rest of the interests at heart, to try and deal with this, that is answerable to all three governments. Now, granted, that is an adult thing, and some kind of suggestion where you would actually try and actually see them kind of hammer out. But no, they just want to keep doing the same old dick dance until Avasarala is like, why don't we just do this, like, transport union that controls that kind of shit and have somebody who's pretty much neutral, pretty much throwing Holden's hat in the ring and doing the whole transport union thing, which I think is pretty much a really good idea. However, we then just pretty much get back to the same old kind of status quo. I do think that Holden and the rest of his group, seeing that, like, there's Earthers, Martians, and Belters there, if you created a kind of structure like that, would work out pretty well. However, that means the Rossi kind of breaks apart and you got people doing other kind of stuff. However, I think that Holden, it's really kind of weird. I know Holden out there doing kind of things and being the kind of rogue knight really works for him, really appeals for him, and is a kind of core thing to his character. However, I do think that it also would have been the best kind of interest for him to kind of do this and it would then give him some kind of stuff to kind of like stretch himself and understand this and try and build something better that could eventually evolve into certain things, and then also force the Belters to evolve into certain kind of things as well. Because at this, you just hand it, we just see him pretty much as first act as president. I nominate Kamina Drummer as my vice president, and then resign, and then she's the president, and then it's pretty much the Belters in control of that. And it's like, hey, cool, now we've got the lopsided power structure, and it'll probably happen out again. I'm just like, shit. And then we don't even get her kind of like answering kind of stuff. I understand Holden wanting to give a voice to the Belters, but this doesn't seem like it would work out that way, and really wouldn't work out his way either. Officer All is like, why the fuck did you do this? Now we're going to have some problems. Listen, I'm just trying to do what I think's right. She's like, all right, cool. And bugs out. What I really would have thought would have been funny is that they fucking decided, you know what? Now this is just a funny kind of scenario in my head. You have Amos up there doing that kind of stuff. You're like, yeah, I'm talking Chrissy and whatever, man. Don't fucking do stupid shit. Oh yeah, Camina's in charge now. Point me to the nearest bar and the nearest brothel and the nearest noodle stand. Peace. And it's just when I was watching that scene, I just for some odd reason in my head, I'm like, how would Amos handle this? And it's not like I went through all the Rossi's kind of crew to kind of do it, but I'm just like, that would have been pretty fucking funny. But I'm just like, all right, so now we're back pretty much at where we were at season 3. Except everybody's just gotten fucked up to shit, and we've now also got this stuff with the aliens that nobody's fucking taking seriously, even though the biggest bad... I can't even say that with a straight face. The biggest dick shit in the system got fucking eaten by him, and nobody's been like, you know what? That's something we need to fucking research. No. But we see them kind of like hammering out at the Rossi. We see that Bobby pretty much is becoming the kind of pilot for the Rossi. We'd seen her talking with Holden about the whole stuff with the Tashi and all that kind of stuff. I like the kind of reminiscing things going on. The callbacks and connections were pretty nice in this episode. For like all throughout the season, I pretty much liked the callbacks. They weren't completely overt and just like bashing you over the head. They were nicely done. We see her kind of like fucking around with it. It's like, yeah, just testing this shit out. Holden's like, you better. Shit. We see that Peaches hasn't told Amos about everything. She got out all right with the whole stuff with the Rossi and all of that. She just pretty much... You'd think that she'd like killed herself, but she just used some stuff to get the coolant together. But she made a little pin that like Amos had lost, and she's got one there. It's like really cool and a really sweet moment for him. And Holden's pretty much trying to figure out what to do, and Amos just like, take time. We got through a lot of shit. And sometimes the best thing you got to do is just hope that you did the right thing. Because he's worrying about it. He's like trying to figure out what to do with the Rossi and all that. And what to do with the aliens. And she's like, calm down. It's cool. And I do like her meditation on kind of like the whole thing. As we see the whole Philip reveal that he got out and did everything like that. Because it shows that Naomi's, what they're trying to accomplish. And to show that Naomi did have an effect on Philip. As he's like, Margaret and Iris can go get fucked. Crazy ass motherfucker, and flying off and taking Naomi's name. And it's like, okay, I understand what you're trying to accomplish and trying to execute, but that doesn't work out because Philip is a plot object, doing whatever the plot demands, you know? And then we just see the Rossi fly off into the Expanse as it becomes smaller and smaller into the star space, which that shot I really liked. I do like the artistic choice for that. That worked out very well and just really showed the expanse of the universe. And it's like, yeah, okay. But it's like, all right, we're finally done with fucking Marco and Aros. That's all done out. I mean, we'll probably still have repercussions from the freaking Navy and everything. But I hope that they learn from this and give the story for whatever seasons they do and whatever movie they do the length of time to actually do it. That is one of the critical kind of things that happen with this. I know that like when it was on Sci-Fi, it didn't have an inordinate amount of episodes, but it felt better paced, more tightly honed with the writing and everything, And then once you get into the Amazon stuff, definitely season 4, it's like, alright, a little bit shaky, but we're okay. But then season 5 and season 6 showed up like writing problems. I don't know if they changed people writing wise or whatnot, or it's just the combination of having to be turnaround time, budgetary, and of course timing limitations with how many episodes you've got. We've really seen this a lot lately with shows getting more and more compact to almost mini-series length, and you can't tell a season's worth of stories in that kind of time frame. Like, I don't think you need to stretch out every show to 22 episodes, but neither can you compact a season that needs 22 episodes into 6. Find the length for your story and go with it that way. That is like, it's really kind of weird that you see them just keep going smaller and smaller, and the biggest one, Game of Thrones, doing that fucking final season at 6 episodes and people just copying the fucking shit out of it, being like, alright, let's do The Witcher at 8 episodes. Could have benefited from longer ones for both seasons. You see The Wheel of Time at 8 episodes. That was a mistake. Alright, you can't, you can attempt with all of your might to shove 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, but you will still have more shit to deal with than you reckon with. Alright? Either it overflowing or blasting out or whatnot. You're gonna have problems. And you see it throughout here. Characters acting weirdly, certain things needing to either be expedited or just glossed over entirely. Now, this is not the worst final season I have seen. Alright? I definitely enjoyed it, and most of the characters for most of the time acted in character. There wasn't a big kind of complete character assassination, though there were characters like Holden that did act out of character with his fight with Amos. I will acknowledge that. And then here, with the whole transport union kind of thing, I think there should have been at least a scene or two with him kind of talking it over with the Rossi crew of what it would mean for him to weigh off that of being president of the transport union and what that would mean. Who would get the Rossi, what they would do, all that kind of stuff. Like, that kind of mediation would have been important. So, it's mainly like the antagonistic force of like fucking Marco. I didn't really like. It's like, I understand what they were trying to do with him, but they couldn't really do much. Philip was just like fucked off. And the whole Laconia thing was bolted on to essentially try and explain and set up shit that's going to be happening. And I'm like, you could have done that if you had more episodes. And essentially did maybe one episode of showcasing all of that shit going on at once. But to my point, my opinion is that they didn't have enough time with it to accurately do what needed to be done with it. It would have been better to just be like, okay, this is where we've ended with the Rossi crew. And then be like, you start the new season, you build this up, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And then you reveal that it's like towards the end of what was going on. And then you shoot off, and it's like, I don't know. You could do that in maybe 3 episodes, potentially. If you want to get like crazy fancy with it, you could probably knock it down to maybe 2, maybe 1 for complete setup, depending upon how much episode length you're going to be going for whatever's going on in the story. But that needed to be there, not here, because it takes away valuable time for other character developments and other character moments and fucking plot explanations of why the fuck somebody who would have let the people starve is fucking in the negotiation room of what's going on. Drummer at least fucking fed him. You don't get a say, asshole. You trusted Marco got fucked, but yet somehow you're on the same level as someone's like, who's been hunted by Marco with a bounty, and it's like, you know what? Fuck you, Marco. And then stole his shit, and then brought his shit to your people. I'm sorry. Like, there's probably an interesting character, an interesting explanations that they could have done that completely gets thrown out. Again, I can almost accept a shittily done character and it's just done to complete shit. But if I can ever sense an ounce of potential with something, I will always go harder on it because there was a potential there and somebody could have at least spoken up and done something with it and made it better. It's like, oh, that potential. That's where you want to see certain things. It's like, damn. So, overall, it didn't make me want to, like, not watch this ever again, which is always a good thing. Like, it didn't make me insta-delete the damn thing from my mind of, like, and we're done. It's only happened to me with pretty much Game of Thrones, even though I keep that, where I'm like, I never want to watch this again. Okay, except in, like, extreme circumstances to show someone the complete and utter fuckery that has occurred with it. And, like, the Mass Effect trilogy. It's like, huh. I still keep those in my mind, but, like, I don't have the urge to be like, I never want to watch that again or really do anything with that again. That's always horrible. But that hasn't happened here. So, I enjoyed a couple of things from it. I was irked by certain things from it and frustrated and just overall disappointed on other things. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes from here. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.